Funding for the production of Folks is made possible in part by a grant from Union National Life Insurance, serving Louisiana and the South since 1926, a family-managed corporation providing whole life insurance.
Coming up today on Folks, a look at women entrepreneurs, a growing segment of the national business population. We'll talk to 3 such women in Louisiana: Sharon Norris of Jar Paul's Interiors, Dr. Katherine Beyer, a veterinarian, and Lulu Buras, creator of Lulu Buras Cosmetics, all on today's edition of Folks. Everyone, and welcome to Folks. I'm Sonya Masingale. The startup of small businesses is on the rise in America, and according to the U.S. Small Business Administration, women-owned businesses appear to be the fastest-growing segment of that population. There are 41,000 women-owned businesses in Louisiana, and the numbers are increasing. This is a relatively new phenomenon, and we're going to take a look at it today. Now, later on, we'll talk to Marlene Weyand, advertising manager of Premier Bancorp in Baton Rouge, who will dispel some of the misconceptions many women have about starting their own businesses. But first, let's meet our women entrepreneurs. We'll begin with Lulu Buras, a Hispanic-American woman who's made beauty a business.
Whenever we have clients that cannot use...
Lulu Buras is the name of a luxury line of skincare products, cosmetics, and health and beauty clinics in southern Louisiana. It is also the name of the creator of these products and services and president of the company. Mrs. Buras came to the United States from Costa Rica as a child. Since then, she has lived in the U.S. and Europe. It was after the birth of her last child that she became interested in skincare products.
I got started in the cosmetic business because I always was interested in skincare and in makeup. And I thought, since I was very young, that one day I would like to do that. I guess this was like a little dream that every woman has. So that was the beginning of a dream.
And then?
And then, actually, I went to school and I did medical technology, bacteriology, biochemistry, and of course I did get married and had children. After my last child, I had an acne problem on my face and on my back. And I had visited different physicians and I couldn't get my skin clear. And actually my main problem was a hormone problem. It was an endocrinologist problem. So actually I did clear my skin up, and then I said, well, I really know how to get some ingredients and get the right skincare, and maybe I could help somebody, you know, to improve their skin. And that's how I started. Carolyn, I want to tell you about our new Azulage.
Buras is a biochemist and develops most of her products with the assistance of about 12 chemists employed at her laboratories in Paris, France. She spends a good deal of the year at the Paris laboratories developing her seasonal cosmetic colors and improving her skincare products. Her newest product is an oil developed for hypersensitive skin.
Right now, we have a couple of products. We have a new oil, which is the first water-soluble oil. Is a deep cleansing oil called Azulage. It's an oil made from chamomile. And after it's processed, the color is blue and is made for sensitive skin. Of course, all skins could use it. That is one of our newest products, and with that we have a lotion that it also contains chamomile. That is for people that cannot use anything, because we have people that come to us and says, I cannot use anything. I've tried everything and I'm allergic to everything. Well, we have found that they can use this product.
Lulu Buras clinics are total health and beauty operations. Clients can receive a full range of beauty treatments, ranging from manicures and hair care to European-style facials and relaxing massages.
Actually, I was a pioneer in skincare, particularly in the South, where people did not know anything about it. The only thing was wash your face with soap and water and use pancake for makeup. I thought that it had to be something more to it. And of course, being Europe educated, so skincare has been there for a long time. So actually, by being there, by getting used to all their products and going to all their schools, which I attended to every skincare school possible, the best ones in Europe, I got very enthusiastic, and I thought that the American woman could really take advantage of all this knowledge.
So nice to see you. Please come in.
A first visit to a Buras clinic includes a consultation with a dermatology specialist who recommends any corrective treatments that are needed to improve the skin, as well as a Buras skin care regimen that the client can use at home.
The philosophy that I have for myself and for the people that work for me and for my customers, I always tell them that if you look good, you feel good. And anything that we can do to improve ourselves, to look good, that will make us feel good. And I also don't believe that there are any ugly women. I just think that women should take a little time with themselves, and that will pay big dividends, actually. If you take 15 minutes of your day to clean your face and put on your makeup, you will feel better, you will be more enthusiastic all day. Everything will look like it's coming up roses instead of rushing and not having time. You do have to give time to yourself.
Avra O'Dwyer first came to Lulu Buras 8 years ago to prepare for her wedding day. She has been a loyal and steady patron since that time. She sometimes treats herself to makeover sessions to freshen her makeup techniques.
I feel very relaxed. It feels nice to get out of the house. I have 3 children, and I come here more or less to relax and make myself feel nice.
Okay, that will be fine. That will be great.
A typical day for Buras begins at 4 a.m. when she calls the laboratories in France to see if all is well. Her day includes making the rounds of her 6 clinics located in the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Over 80 people in the United States and Europe are employed by Lulu Buras. She feels a deep sense of responsibility toward her employees.
I worry a little bit sometimes, but then I realize that worrying doesn't do any good anyway. So I just take a step at a time and go with it. I think when you're busy and working, it keeps you young.
Next, LPB correspondent Lynda Roedts introduces us to Dr. Catherine Beyer, a veterinarian who believes it doesn't matter whether you're a woman or a man as long as you can do the job.
Dr. Catherine Beyer's day begins at 7 a.m. She hopes to be finished in 12 hours. But like doctors of all kinds, she doesn't really have a quitting time. That depends on her patients. Misty has serious digestive problems. This little dog was hit by a car, and Shayna is in labor.
Good morning. How are you, Miss Hershey? Hello, Miss Panda. How you doing this morning? You're not too scared? Well, that's a good girl. It's an easy visit today.
Catherine Beyer remembers her own first experience with a veterinarian. She had a heifer she wanted to show in 4-H competition, but it needed 2 of its 6 teats removed. To 13-year-old Catherine, this was major surgery.
He went out into the barnyard, and of course I had her all decked out in her halter, and I was ready for all of this, and I was in 8th grade at the time. And I had her ready for all of this, and he came up very unceremoniously, grabbed the 2 teats, took the knife, went whack, whack. The calf kicked straight up in the air. It was about a 9-month-old calf, so she weighed about 700-800 pounds. She kicked straight up in the air. Blood was flying everywhere, and the calf took off. There was my heifer, my halter, everything in the pasture, mud flying, and she wasn't coming back. So anyway, I walked in. I was fuming. I walked in. I told my mother, anybody could do it better than that.
Now a vet herself, Dr. Beyer treats only small animals, the kind we keep as pets. It was nearly 9 years ago that she hung up her sign outside the renovated house in Baton Rouge that became her office.
The first day was July the 5th of 1978, and on July the 5th, I had stayed up all the night before on July the 4th waxing the floors. I'd stayed up the entire night getting ready, and the first person walked in about 5:15, and I was just about asleep when they walked in. And, you know, that's just how you get started, and you see what they need, and they needed some warmer. So, Mom, bye-bye.
Could they come and see her tonight?
If your children like to after they get off school, that'd be just fine.
They probably have to before.
Okay, they won't go to bed if they don't?
No.
Okay, that's fine. We can do it.
It's leaving your baby.
It is.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Dr. Beyer says she had always wanted her income to depend directly on her own efforts. Confident and self-assured, the idea of starting her own business was only natural.
Little did I know at some times that there were going to be things that cropped up that I knew absolutely nothing about along the business line. But there are other professionals out there to help you, and I found especially a group of support in women professionals, women that are in business for themselves. Actually, I don't see that in his future.
Dr. Beyer had no trouble getting the bank loan she needed to start her business. But inventory practices, billing, and taxes were all foreign ground to her. After she went through 6 male accountants in 2 years, Dr. Beyer started interviewing women. She says they worked harder and served her better than men. Now her accountant, attorney, bookkeeper, and much of her office staff are female.
You been getting your sister to lick it out? Huh? Is that what you've been doing? Your sister to lick it out? That's a good girl. Good girl.
Belle, this German Shepherd Collie mix, has had problems with infections in her ears. To distract the dog while she checks, Dr. Beyer puts peanut butter in the roof of Belle's mouth.
It's amazing. She can handle these dogs about as well as we do, and she sees them maybe once every 2 or 3 months. But if she has to handle and examine something, she knows exactly how to hold them, talks to them, puts them at ease, and that's the same way you look for with a personal doctor if you feel comfortable with him or her.
Press on it.
Dr. Beyer sees between 25 and 30 clients a day, a heavy, steady volume that has grown gradually over the years. Sam and Cindy Moore say they bring their dog here because Catherine Beyer cares about her.
The first time she was hospitalized here, we were worried to death because she was like our baby. And the next day we came and picked her up, and Dr. Beyer says, yes, I cooked her some ground meat, and she slept by my fireplace, and I said, I should be so lucky.
These husky puppies are only 4 days old. Today, Dr. Beyer is removing a dew claw, a nail that grows on the dog's leg above the paw. The claw is removed because it could cause problems for these animals when they grow older.
I've been to other veterinarians, and they give them the shots, but they don't really tell you what they're for, or, you know, any aftercare, like, you know, and it's just like they're just a dog and they're in to have their shots and you leave with them. They don't treat them like she more or less is like a pediatrician.
Dr. Beyer has 2 dogs of her own and 4 cats that donate blood to the clinic. She and her assistants pet and talk to every animal brought to their care. And when the calls come in the middle of the night, Catherine Beyer gets up.
Sure, like the old fire horse, you get up and answer the bell. You have a medical responsibility to the patient. You have an emotional responsibility and tie to the owner. You have to help them. They feel helpless. They don't know what to do.
Dr. Beyer says any woman who wants to be her own boss needs to be dedicated to have her personal priorities in order.
If you think you're going to be free every weekend to where you may go skiing or water skiing, or you want to take 3 or 4 ski trips, if you think that you're going to take like 2-week vacations at a time, I think that all of these kind of things are fairly unrealistic. And it's not just veterinary medicine. I think it's the way that our entire work world is going. You can go to extremes, and you have to find some private time for yourself. People, the threat of burnout is very real. For myself, I don't think I'm immune from burnout, but I think that I enjoy what I do so much that you know, I haven't burned out.
When's the last time you had a vacation?
I don't remember.
Our next segment features Sharon Norris, an interior decorator who learned solid business practices the hard way.
This is Sharon Norris, interior decorator and sole proprietor of Jar Paul's Interiors in Baton Rouge. Although Jarpal's is only 3 years old, Sharon has owned her own interior decorating company for about 10 years. She opened her first business right after college graduation.
I first got started as Michelle's Interiors in 1977. And it was kind of hard, but I had some savings in the bank, and I withdrew it out and made a couple of loans from a couple of friends. And I started off by renting a building and re-renovating it. And I got a lot of help from my mom, and I have a very special aunt that gave me a very lot of help. And that's how I basically got started.
Both of Sharon's companies were bankrolled by her family and close friends, but being inexperienced in standard business practices caused the failure of her first venture after 7 years.
I trusted people. If you told me you was going to pay me on a certain day, I'd go on and write my checks out and pay my bills without the money being there. And that's the mistake. You don't ever pay anybody until you have the money in the bank, and you make sure that it has cleared the bank before you pay your debts. I also, if you told me that you wanted the carpet and I was going to install it that day, I'd put it in, you was going to pay me when I finish, then I'd trust you to pay your debt. But a lot of us, we wanted things, but we couldn't afford to get them. So now I don't do that. I don't handle my business that way anymore. You sign a contract, you give me half of my money up front, you give me the other 40% when the merchandise gets in, and you give me the last 10% when I finish the job. And I find that works much better when you have a contract and you can trust people, because verbal agreements do not stand up in Louisiana law. Written contracts do.
Now that she's back on her feet again, Sharon follows some hard rules about conducting business. She is finding them indispensable.
You must make sure that your clientele sign on the dotted line. Without a signature, you cannot perform, you cannot go to work and start that job. I cannot order anything into this company without a deposit. Those are basic rules. I must have your deposit, I must have your signature in order for me to get started. I cannot order anything unless I have money in order to get it into the company, because everything comes in here COD. So that's basically my basic rules. Without a deposit, we can't do business.
One of Sharon's largest projects was the complete overhaul of Cosey's beauty salon. For around $40,000, she not only decorated the salon, but she coordinated the addition of an upper story and a health club, complete with exercise machines and steam room.
You get first class look, and everything is blending together, you know. It's not out of order in it with the colors.
What is your approach to making your business a success when so many around you are failing?
The good Lord above, honestly. Prayers. And I hustle a lot. I don't just sit in my office. I have to get out and meet people. And after I get out there on the job site and I get to talking, I'm very reasonable. My prices are competitive. And basically that's how I stay in business, being competitive with the next fellow. Because right now people, with the economy the way it is, we're looking for the best prices that we can get, also the best product that we can get. And I try my very best to give my client the best prices as well as the best product that they can receive.
Sharon says that being black and female has not handicapped her business at all. Competence and competitive prices make up her formula for success with all clients.
I've had good times and I've had bad times. Me being black, basically, to a lot of people, that it doesn't bother them. Then I have certain clients that I walk in their shop, or I walk in their homes, and because I'm black, they try and give me a hard time, but once I get there and we get to talking, they'll say, well, you're very capable of doing your job, so I don't care what color you are, but it did bother me at first that you were black and you basically owned your own company.
Money is not Sharon's only reason for owning her own business. There are lots of other perks as well.
The advantage of working for myself is I set my own hours, I go and come as I please, and I choose the clientele that I decide that I want to work with. Because certain people have certain attitudes, and if I work for other people, the customer is always right. And nobody is always right in this business. It's a give and take situation. And we all make mistakes because we're all human. So I enjoy working for myself for that reason, that I can choose the clientele that I decide to work with.
When was the last time you had a vacation?
About 3 years ago.
Joining me in the studio today to do away with some of the old myths about starting up women-owned businesses is Marlene Weyand, advertising manager with Premier Bancorp, a holding company in Baton Rouge with 8 banks statewide. Marlene also writes the marketing column in the Baton Rouge Business Report. Welcome to Folks, Marlene.
I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad that you're here. Now, back in the 1970s, we were hearing in women's magazines and business journals that it was more difficult for women to get loans to start businesses on their own credit rating. Why is that?
It probably wasn't as difficult. It's probably as difficult now as it was then. And let me explain what I mean. Banks and financial institutions, of course, are very willing to lend money to anybody that has a good business idea and has the proper funding, marketing plan, and so on. So really, there's no change. It's just that you have to have your business to act together, whether you're male or female, to borrow money. So really, there hasn't been any discrimination in that sense.
What do you mean by marketing plan?
Women are more savvy now about what they need to do to get into business. They've been in the workforce in a big way at an upper level for 2 decades now. So now they know how to move their products, their goods and services. That's what marketing means, is selling your products.
Okay, now what is a marketing plan and how do you put one together?
Well, that's kind of complicated, but first you have to do some research and you have to know. And I think it's interesting, the people you've had on your program today are successful. Some of them had some problems, have gone bankrupt, have learned some lessons the hard way. And I think one of the things that a woman has to know, or man also, before they go into businesses, they have to have a niche. Today's entrepreneur, business person, has to be a niche player. It's one thing to have a good idea and to be good at baking cookies or cakes or something. But on the other hand, you have got to see what the competition is doing. You've got to narrow down and find the niche where you're going to fit in. And that's number one. That's the first thing you must do. Before you start your marketing plan, find your niche.
So a niche meaning the kind of product or services that you're going to render.
Right.
Well, how do you decide that? Do you just go with what you're best at? Let's say I'm good with flower arranging, so I want a florist shop. Can I just open one and be successful?
Of course not, because you've got to look at the competition, you've got to look at the marketplace, you've got to know what the economy is doing in that area. So you have to do a lot of research. And I think what's wonderful about Louisiana is we have some great chambers of commerce in each of the major markets. And you can go to them and they can give you, their staffs can give you the information you need to set up a business plan, to begin your business plan before you ever walk into a bank, any financial institution, a venture capitalist, and we can talk more about that later. You have to have a plan, have well thought out, and show them how the cash is going to flow. Talk to them about your accounts receivables.
And how you're going to handle those particular
Certainly,
accounts.
yes.
Okay, back to the research part.
Okay, again, the chambers can help a lot there. There's 2 kinds of research, primary and secondary. Primary is very expensive. You've got to do that yourself. You've got to go to a research firm and say, help me, I need a sample of 500 people and what they're interested in as far as floral arrangements. On the other hand, you might be able to go to the chamber and get the secondary research. Research is already done about that sort of thing, about the marketplace, how many floral shops there are in Monroe, and what the competition is, what kind of money they're earning. Get a lot of stuff, many times, now this is the scary part that men and women don't want to hear, many times when you go do your research, you find out that it's not a good idea to go into that business, that it's not a good idea. Mm-hmm. Now, if you ignore that and do it anyway and massage those figures so they look good, knowing full well if they don't, get a loan and get out into the market, you're going to go bankrupt. So be honest to thyself. Before you're honest to the banker or anybody else or your family or whomever you're going to borrow money from, be honest to yourself because you don't want to fail. And do you know that what the statistics say, 90% of small businesses fail within 3 years? 90%. So be careful before you venture out there and perhaps ruin your reputation, your family. I mean, all sorts of repercussions happen when you go out of business.
Speaking of the pieces that we saw earlier, the profiles of the women-owned businesses, most of them were very blithe about dealing with money and dealing with men in the marketplace. I found them reluctant to admit any difficulties at all. Can you shed some light on that? There are more difficulties for women in the corporate world than there are in the entrepreneur world, and that's why they go into it. I mean, it's just like Nasbitt said in Megatrends. At the turn of this century, the Jewish population in this country was having a problem making inroads into corporate white male America. Well, and blacks have the same problem as women in this sense. Women have found the same thing.
They can reach middle management and they're stuck and they can go no farther. Well, a lot of men, women, people want to go beyond that. And so what do they have to do? They have to start their own business. And it sounds very romantic and exciting, and also it feels like, my God, I'm going to have some control finally. But beware before you do that. Have the money, be funded well, and be able to pay more than 2 months rent with what you have set aside. Rent on your home and rent on your the place where your business is. I mean, you've got to have a nice padding, be well funded when the economy takes a sharp downturn, as it has in Louisiana. You can see the people all over South Louisiana crying and screaming right now because they didn't plan their spending well, and their cash flow dried up on them. So,
and it happens.
It happens.
Now, speaking of cash flow and ways to get it, you mentioned venture capital, and I think that's something that future entrepreneurs need to know about.
I think so. Venture capital is most important when you have an idea that is rather unique in most cases. Let's say you have a crawfish peeling machine you've invented, and it's going to be revolutionary, and it's going to give you the ability to start to have in Louisiana a food production plant that's going to be fast and efficient. That's the kind of idea that venture capital firms want to talk to you about. They don't want to talk to you about opening up a florist.
Where do you find the venture capitalists?
Go to your Chamber of Commerce in your city, and they'll tell you who they are in your city. For instance, the Baton Rouge Chamber of Commerce can tell you 2 or 3 in this area that would be, or even regional as far as that goes. They can plug you in. So again, I keep talking about the Chamber. I'm not a representative of the Chamber, but I believe, in what they're doing in this state, because they are the rallying point right now to bring the economy back up. So they can help people find out what they need to know as far as venture capital. And there are now the venture capital people are, the one difference about them is they become a part of the business. I mean, they take part of the profits. That's the deal. They don't go into it unless they're investors, in essence, and they go into it if they're going to make money off of it. They're not going to. You're not going to get interest. I mean, you're not going to pay them interest. That's not the deal. They're going to be a partner.
They usually lend venture capital on practical type ideas, not
have to be
just
practical,
services.
right? Like software. Okay, development of software. Those things are very exciting right now to venture capitalists. But manufacturing types of businesses are also an exciting thing for us now. I mean, we're getting away from, the economy that was based on oil and getting into other areas. So venture capitalists are interested in that now. But before you walk in there, you also must have a good business plan, a good marketing plan, how you're going to move your goods and services in good times and in bad times.
Thank you, Marlene. Marketing plan is what is needed. And we've been talking to Marlene Weyand of Premier Bancorp here on Folks Today about women-owned businesses. And that's it for this week's show. Be sure to join us next week for another edition of Folks. Bye-bye.
Funding for the production of Folks is made possible in part by a grant from Union National Life Insurance, serving Louisiana and the South since 1926, a family-managed corporation providing whole life insurance.